Hi, this is George. Welcome to the Busy Daddies Do Sci-Fi podcast. This episode is a Kevin Stack solo joint. I am on family vacation in a small town with lots of secrets and lots of trees, but sadly no cell phone service. Adam is still off fighting the intergalactic interdimensional war. All hail Adam. And Kevin is bringing it to you by himself. So sit back, relax, and welcome to, once again, the Busy Daddy Do Sci-Fi podcast.
So are we rolling?
We're rolling. So what about now? The case that you made for doing this intro was something like there needs to be an intro because that's just what you're used to. It's the standard convention.
Oh, I'm not used to anything because I don't really listen to these.
Okay.
But like,
All right.
Well, there's usually something.
When
There's
I
usually
hear-
like a bam 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 bam.
The being the busy daddy science fiction.
Well, no matter what we do to
Which
start
is-
it, it's got to be more interesting than this.
yeah. No, that's it.
All right, good. We got our intro.
Cool.
Welcome. Kevin, Busy Daddy here. Recording another episode. And we knew it would come to this. We did know it would come to this. We would get so busy that each member would try and one-up one another. Which is what George did by recording his solo album / last episode. Yeah. Talked with the producers actually, had a meeting with both of them, producer Vic and producer Stephanie. They encouraged me to do my own as well. Busy Daddies Do Sci-Fi. Adam is still fighting the, I think it's the 100-Year War. Something, I don't know. And he did get the Marlboros and the Western jeans. Hoping that works out for him there. It's the only way he can really pay for the signal to talk to his family. Yeah, so basically in the Busy Daddies expression of the Kiss solo albums, here I come to create one memorable thing and 7 poorly crafted things, as was the case with Peter Criss's album at least. But I digress. George is a liar. He told the world... Listener, he told you that, I don't know, did he say it on the air that I had the poops, as he called it, or did he just write that on his sticky notes? Yeah, I was sweaty, uncomfortable, no real results, but at the same time, unable to meet up with him. So producer Vic and producer Stephanie said, why don't you guys go solo? And at the urgings of listener mail, here we are. George and I would have talked about Interstellar. We would have talked about The Man from Earth. And in the background here, you'll hear Brian Eno's Apollo record, which I was jamming at work last week. Poor choice of words with this record, but listening to nonetheless. This crafty person on YouTube has actually taken one of the songs and looped it, made a 50-minute version. But as I hear it, it makes me think of Interstellar and the coming homishness that it evoked. And last week when I listened to this record, which I just told you is called Apollo, it brings about a certain feeling of space travel. And this track here is called The Ascent, and it also reminds me of returning music. That aha sort of peace in separation. Even though you're a baby stuck in a giant onyx monolith, things are going to be okay kind of feeling. And I kind of have a chicken or an egg moment, which is, why is this record made in something like 1986 reminding me of sci-fi music? What was the first stuff? What were the groundbreaking ones? What were the ones that laid down the imprint for why I think this sounds sci-fi? Film scory. Anyhow, Interstellar was a great ride. And you have seen us on record talk about how I would have had someone spoil that movie. And I had a couple guys go, no, man, I ain't going to do that. We're not spoiling that for you. As if he was saving me from myself. And what could I have said? How would that be spoiled? As you know, George gets on there and he says we enter spoiled terrain. And I mean, straight up, if you have not seen Interstellar, stop now. Because I guess you could say Matthew McConaughey is the ghost that gets Matthew McConaughey to go off in space to save humanity. Which, by the way, was done with grace. After a long adventure, we get to the punchline, and that is the black hole takes you into this strange place behind your bookshelf where you can tap out and leave messages in a quantum way. And I like that a lot. People have wasted some time. Poor choice of words again. People have spoken about the ecological parts of the movie, which drive it in a way. I was intrigued by that drone that had been up in the air for about 10 years and the little clues in which we know there's a decline. Almost a children of men sort of things have clearly gone wrong kind of feeling behind the scenes. But I liked Interstellar. It was a nice ride. Similar to when I watched Inception on a plane. And, you hear about these movies that are great, and they just deliver. The Man from Earth is another one George and I would have talked to. And George did say he loved that movie. And perhaps George will listen to this and he'll go rogue again and tell everyone I'm sick and start recording his own podcast. And maybe he'll just be busy. Daddy does sci-fi. And I'll be over here doing my best homeschool, whatever the heck I'm doing here with this background music playing over and over again. Which I really like. Although it would be weird now if I was like, I want to get you to another track, but I have to stop it and a YouTube ad might pop up. Something like that. So we're going to stick with this. This is a loop. And it's all right. But here's what I wanted to really get down to. George will talk about how he's not so much of a reader and but if he'll read it, he sat down and read, World War Z in 10 hours? Yeah, right. 10 hours. World War Z, wonderful book. Is it sci-fi? I don't know. I've been thinking about that lately. What makes sci-fi? Oh, but back to George. So I say, okay, Mr. I get my sci-fi through screens. Almost exclusively. Check this movie out. It's in the dumpster that we dive in called the Netflix science fiction section. And it's that one with that profile picture of that Japanese woman with the squiddy kind of electrode nodes things coming out of her head. And it's called Advantageous. And I give him this text kind of late at night while I'm watching it, similar to when I was watching Upstream Color. And it's one of those. It's like, dude, period. Dude. You know, which usually speaks to the George. So it was one of those cool movies. Deep, gripping, subtle. We are in a place where the role of the woman is withering away. There's a woman, middle 40s, with a daughter, and she is having a daughter. If you listen closely, you'll hear my wife talking to my son right now. I guess she's a busy mommy by proxy to Sci-Fi right now. We're just doing 20-minute blasts. Something has happened once again. That Children of Men thing. I recommend watching it. But talking about lying, I told George I was sick when we were supposed to record because he hadn't watched Advantageous. You know, I was just waiting. You know, I know good material when it comes, and he passed on it. He got too busy. He had 3 days to watch this. I'm sure he cranked out, like, he probably binge watched, Daredevil season 69, or something that, just kept him, feeling better than us all because he knows, what post-crisis Marvel's supposed to be like, or DC or whatever, some of that stuff he talks about. But I digress. Advantageous. I'm going to save that and hope George watches it. Listener, if you watch it, you can catch up with us. Perhaps you've been doing things like reading along with what I'm doing or watching along with what George or Adam are doing. And I have finished Altered Carbon and Broken Angels, the Takeshi Kovac books by Richard K. Morgan, and I'm dying to read Woken Furies, the third one. But alas, I went on a 1,600-page fantasy journey with Patrick Rothfuss and The Name of the Wind and its sequel, The Wise Man's Fear, which is tough. This starts with a kid at about 11, and he's about 17 when 1,600 pages go by. It is a wonderful read. It is not dense, but rich. That is to say, you might take a 60-page adventure before you get the little nugget out of this person's development. All the while, the child you're reading about is telling you his story. And so in the real time, in the real world of this book, this kid who's on the rise as an arcanist, which we would call wizard, magician, as an expert master fighter, some mix between yoga and kung fu, has lost his mojo. And this is tough because it brings me to this. Part 3 has not been written. I think Patrick Rothfuss is in rehab. Reader, if you know anything about this, let us know. He says on his website things like, I don't get joy from withholding information, and, I'll let you know what's up. He has written a fat book about Ari, one of the characters that is at the university that this character, Quoth, studies at. But it's a killer, man. You got to wait for this guy to figure this thing out. And like I'm saying, he tells his story verbally in 2 days. 2 days for 11 to 17. Maybe they describe this guy as being young for his age when he's talked about in real time. He's just checked out and become an innkeeper, by the way. And a little bit of mysterious nature to that. But, I mean, how many volumes could this be to describe this guy's story? And does Patrick Rothfuss have it in him? Patrick Rothfuss, if you are out there, please send us a letter to our P.O. Box. Producer Vic and producer Stephanie, their emails are listed in the credits at the end of the show. If you want to get in touch with them, we'd love to interview you, by the way. Chiming in right now, on top of the Brian Eno Apollo loop, is the hissing white noise of the shower. That's right, it's bathing time for the Stack family. Once a week, we bathe. And it's my wife's turn. The boy just showered, and I showered earlier. TMI? I don't know. Or is this just BDDSCIFI? I don't know if I got that right. I have to wait. I have to wait for part 3 of the 3-body problem. This kills me, man. At least I know September 2016, Death's End, the third part of the 3-body problem, is going to come out. But as for Quoth and his journey, who knows? Patrick Rothfuss could get sober, decide he never was a writer, that was just some false identity and mask he wore, and never finish the story. Not that I'm starting any rumors or anything. It's a beautiful day here in lovely Southern California. I checked on the LA Public Library to see if Woken Furies was at a branch near my house, and it was not. So I was faced with my bookshelf. I buy a bunch of sci-fi for the times when my reading schedule falls into these windows, where I'm waiting for someone to perhaps come up with the next 10 years of a really intense storyline, or a new book to come out. So what someone got me hip to was Peter K. Hamilton, The Reality Dysfunction. So I'm in Arizona in January going through a half-price books, and I see this fat book sitting on the shelf, and it's The Reality Dysfunction. And I flip on the back, and it's got 3 book covers and little thumbnail size things, and I think I've stumbled upon to all 3 parts of The Reality Dysfunction. No, that couldn't be true. I am 48 pages into another 1,000-page book. And I'm telling you, listener, I dig reading. This one's taken some work. It's strange. It's gigantic. It had 4 pages of timeline. It's happening in 26,000. And I am reading about void hawks and night hawks. And these are living ships that are hybrids that bond for life with their pilots, who are inseminated by eggs and seeds of pilots and co-pilots, who give birth in mating flights out in the rings of Saturn in what was graphically described as something similar to David Cronenberg, Existenz, pulsing, slimy, sphinctery ovum. And this came on a recommendation by someone I trust, and I'm into it. It's daunting, though. I'm scared that I'm going to like it and have to go through 2 other volumes of like 1,000 pages to finish it, when all I really want to do is bang out a popcorn Richard K. Morgan book. By the way, a lot of K's in the middle initials there. I'm going to add one to my name. George already put one in his name because the producers thought that would be good for the show. I think I've said enough. Going solo. Back in the New York Groove is the best song on the Ace Frehley solo album. That's a stretch even. Peter Criss really couldn't replicate Beth. And honestly, the Melvins made 3 solo records that are better than all those. But I'm going to let you go now. We have friends coming over. Highland Park's about to look like Fallujah. That sound right there is not Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon, but instead the chimes of my iPhone letting you know that you've spent about 19 and a half minutes with Kevin. I'd like to thank our producers. Listeners, please send emails if you know anything about Patrick Rothfuss's whereabouts. And we're only going to enable him if we let him string us along like this. Thanks so much. I'm out of here. Good night.
All right, thanks for listening. You can subscribe to Busy Daddies Do Sci-Fi on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you listen, please take the time to rate and review. Reviews keep us on the charts, and that way people can find us. You can follow us at BDD Sci-Fi on Twitter and Instagram, or if you want to learn more about the Busy Daddies, check out bddsci-fi.com. Thanks for listening, and see you every other Wednesday.